All right, welcome in to the Pharmacist and the Photog Games, Grooves, and Grub. I am the Pharmacist, Dion Spencer, alongside the Photog, Steve Moss. And we're going to spend a little time today talking about various sundry sports and music and food and various things. But we'll go ahead and get the obvious joke out of the way. Kentucky performed incredibly well against BYE yesterday. I expect the competition to get a little bit tougher next week when they go to South Carolina. But yeah, they looked solid yesterday. I don't know what they were all doing, but we didn't make the headlines, so that's good.
That is always a joke around here.
Yeah, solid. Get the win against BYE. If you're not a football fan, we had a bye week, so.
The problem is Mark Stoops is not very good coming off a bye week. He's 6-10 all time at Kentucky, 5-9 when he's going against Southeastern Conference opponents.
Yeah. And having to go on the road.
Having to go on the road where Shane Beamer has had his number and South Carolina's had his number. Kentucky or Stoops rather, has a winning record against South Carolina, but not over the last.
Not recently.
Yeah. And Lenoris, what's his last name? Forgive me.
I jotted it down. Sellers. Lenoris Sellers.
Man.
Yeah.
Lenoris Sellers was back after having concussion protocol measures. And he looked really, really good against Missouri.
He was solid. Missouri. Yeah, he was 18 for 28 with 300 yards. I mean, granted, Missouri did win the ball game, so that's another strike against Kentucky is you got South Carolina coming off a loss.
Two.
Two losses.
Straight.
I mean, I'm not wishing any ill will on Lenore Sellers, the South Carolina quarterback, but I was kind of hoping that concussion protocol might keep him out for one more week, but not the case. And he's the type of dude that I think Kentucky's going to have a little bit of trouble with containing him. He's a versatile kind of quarterback.
I don't think he was the reason they lost the game yesterday.
No, I don't either.
But Stoops talked to us on Wednesday of last week. We're recording this on a Sunday. And he basically said that if you read between the lines and read the tea leaves, so to speak, he's kind of changed his approach. He knows that his record is not great because, who was it that said you are what your record says you are?
Yeah.
But basically he said that they're not taking the week off like maybe they've gone lightly in the past. They've lifted just like they normally do, like it's a game week. He's had them doing the things as if there was a game on Saturday just to keep them sharp and keep them focused. So we'll see if that pays dividends.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully with the way college football is starting to shake out now, there's a few teams that I'm kind of looking at our schedule now, and I'm kind of like, if we do everything right, maybe we have a shot. One of those teams, because Kentucky didn't play yesterday, we had a chance to watch a few other games. I was kind of interested in watching the Miami versus Florida game, and Florida, man, they're just not a very good football team.
Nope.
And even though it took Miami a little while to put them, it looked like early Miami was just going to roll them. Then it got a little dicey, and I think it boils down to kind of like we talked about last week, Kentucky against the mid-major or whoever. I think Miami felt confident they were going to come in and they were going to beat Florida, and maybe they laid down a little bit and got a little confident. But just watching Miami, their run game was pretty brutal and punishing on Florida. Their defense, Miami's defense is fast, man. I mean, they're really fast. They get to the ball. But Florida just looks like a team that doesn't really – they kind of look like Kentucky at times. Don't really know what they're doing. Yeah. So, now I look at our schedule. I'm like, I think we're at least as good as Florida,
Well, if you get a win on the road at South Carolina – you get the fans back a little bit too.
Yeah.
There's that segment, that noisy minority segment of the UK fan base. I think a win heals a lot. Mm-hmm. You get the fans back. You get the confidence of the team back. Who's going to start? We still don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out and who gets the first snaps down there, because it truly is not going to matter. It's who's going to finish the game.
Right.
Boley could start, suck for a couple of quarters, and then they go with Calzada. And he's been through the wars. He's been on the road in that league. And yes, Cutter Boley played at Texas, started at Texas, accounted very well for himself. But, it's a little bit different situation this time around. So,
yeah, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, there's definitely a lot of pressure on him now,
yes,
given that he got thrown in, game, 2, 3 of the season. And now all the fans who are calling for the backup quarterback, the local kid, they got him, and let's see what happens. Like we've said this 100 times, the backup guy is the most popular, most popular guy on the team. So, I'm hoping we can squeak one out against South Carolina, and then I can't remember what our schedule, the way it lays out. I know it doesn't take. I think we got Georgia after that. Okay.
It doesn't matter because the stretch is just brutal.
It's brutal. It's Georgia, it's Texas.
You can't even go, well, at least we've got Vandy. Vandy's going to be ranked
Vandy's
in the top
4-0 right now.
Yeah, they're going to be ranked 15th, I think.
Yeah. Literally when you start looking at the schedule and you're like, well, Arch Manning's not playing very good for Texas. Do we have a chance? That's the reality of things right now.
They got more Jimmys and Joes. That's the issue.
That's the truth. I sat and watched a little bit. Like last week I mentioned, one of my favorite guys to see lose and whine is Dabo Swinney at Clemson, and man, they dropped another one to Syracuse yesterday.
Yeah, and for a while there, it wasn't even a game.
No.
At Clemson. So
he
was spitting nails after the game, and rightly so. That fan base is going to come after him hard this week.
Well, and we think we've got it bad here at Kentucky, and everybody's calling for Stoops to be ousted. Our $30 million buyout for Mark Stoops pales in comparison to Dabo's buyout is $60 million. He ain't going anywhere. Clemson's got money.
You say that.
They're not going to get rid of him for $60 million. I don't think.
You would think.
He basically at the beginning of the week dared Clemson to fire him. He basically said, "You think you can do better?" He's like, "I'm 55 years old. I can go somewhere else." I mean, he pulled a what's his name, Mike Gundy.
Yeah, it reminded me of the Nolan Richardson thing back when Nolan Richardson was coaching Arkansas basketball, and he came into Lexington, got his tail beat, and after the game, somebody asked him, about it, and he was like, "Yeah, they're gonna have to pay me. Yep. If you want me to go away, they're gonna have to pay me." I think John Calipari even pulled that one time. Yeah. But yeah, these guys feel a little insulated because they do have such huge buyouts. There's a lot of money involved,
and that's then you start wondering. It's like maybe the guy we should fire is the AD who negotiated that contract.
Right.
Well, that's a whole other can of worms because we've had that discussion at Kentucky before.
Yeah, Stoops is right around $30 million.
Yeah. But
he's not going anywhere.
One thing, just watching that Miami versus Florida game, the guy calling all the plays for Miami is Shannon Dawson, former offensive coordinator at Kentucky.
Yeah. And
it does seem to be the case at Miami anyway that he gets to call the plays he wants to call. And be that as it may. I don't know. Sure, he's been through a lot more now too as an offensive coordinator. So maybe the experience makes him look so much better.
That's going to always be the case here with Mark Stoops as your head coach, because he's an old school guy. Played at Iowa. They're going to run the football. They're going to be balanced and run the football. It's not going to be some pass happy offense. Stoops had Neil Brown as his first coordinator, and that didn't work. And I think a lot of the hiring there was just to appease the Kentucky fans because Neil Brown was one of them. He's a former Kentucky player. That didn't last very long. Right. I just feel like it's Stoops is going to demand that they play tough, hard-nosed football, and that means running the football.
Yeah, and thankfully, I feel like our running game is pretty solid as long as our O-line can stay healthy enough to open up some holes. Maybe we got a chance there to keep people honest, and in turn give Boley or Calzada a chance, depending on what's going on.
Did you see the Josh Pate? Do you know who that is?
I do not.
Josh Pate, I think, is a writer for ESPN.com. Anyway, Colin Cowherd, you know who that is,
absolutely.
had him on one of his shows, and he said he asked which was the top job in college football. What would your answer be?
Gosh,
the top job in college football.
I mean, you automatically
like a Texas or
you automatically
Georgia,
think, Alabama. You think those schools. That's tough. I'd go with the obvious ones: Alabama, Ohio State, Texas, Georgia would be my biggies.
Well, Pate said if you're interested in winning a national championship or competing for a national championship every year, the job is Georgia.
Yeah.
And I think they probably pay. I think he's the highest paid coach in America.
I think so. Doesn't he make like 10
but
or
if
11 million a year or something like that?
I think he's a little over 10.
Yeah.
But Pate said Kentucky was the top college football job in America because, as he said, all they want, meaning the fans, is to win 7 or 8 games, go to a nice bowl game, and they're paying their coach $9 million. And I thought about it, and I'm like, he's not wrong.
Because Kentucky fans will travel.
That's right.
They'll travel anywhere. It's game day in Lexington is just a chance to transition from a nice day at Keeneland and, get out your finest vineyard vines, checked polo and khaki shorts and roll into Commonwealth and have a few beverages and
watch another Southeastern Conference team come in.
Watch a really good team roll in. And we always try to be as hospitable as we can to our friends from Texas and Georgia. I think we would be the miscongeniality of SEC football if you really took a poll on it. So,
but Mitch Barnhart has proven he is not afraid to throw money at it to be competitive. Well, and there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, problem is now we're kind of reaching a point where we're throwing a lot of money at it.
Yeah.
And we're not competitive.
Where's the point of no returns?
So that gets a little tough. But we'll see what happens.
I saw that and I thought, well, I'm going to bring that up.
That's interesting. I somehow missed that this week. But the other college football game yesterday that I got to watch, not necessarily by choice, was the U of L, the University of Louisville versus Bowling Green. I've told this story multiple times here. My youngest daughter is a junior at the University of Louisville. She's there on scholarship because I said I would not pay for any of my kids to go to U of L. So
I think you're actually serious about that too.
I was a little bit disappointed when I had to even write a check to just Chi Omega, the sorority, but luckily Louisville's name didn't get put on that check. So anyway, it was parents' weekend, and daughter really wanted us to come to the game. So I waited and bought some tickets on StubHub. I got them as cheap as I could possibly get, and I found out that I could have bought the $10 300 level seats and then just gone and sat practically on top of the field.
I'm surprised there wasn't like a Groupon on it.
I'm telling you, Louisville football fans, it's a little bit frustrating because, I'm man enough to admit that there have been some really good Louisville football seasons over the last 5-6 years, and they just don't support their team like I feel like they should. Not like if Kentucky were 6-0, 7-0, 8-0 and getting into the mix, the fans show up. And granted, I know yesterday was a noon kickoff. It was roughly 1,050 degrees, but there were about 30,000 people there, maybe. I don't even know if it was that. But literally, we could have gone from our second level seats that I only paid $20 for and gone and sat probably 50-yard line halfway up in the lower bowl. So I don't know.
There is one thing I will say about the Louisville fan base. They are all talk, all hat, no cattle.
Yeah.
Because they will talk a big game, especially if they're arguing with Kentucky fans about who's the better fan base.
Yeah.
But I have noticed when it comes to actually putting butts in seats, they slide a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I know that you can say, oh, that's because it was against Bowling Green. It doesn't really matter. What I've seen in the past, the Louisville fans just ultimately do not support. They are the epitome of a fair weather fan for sure. Now, I'll give U of L credit. Their stadium music is better than Kentucky's.
Well, there's a lot of things that's bad about the experience at Kroger Field.
Yeah.
A lot.
It'll always be Commonwealth to me. I'm going to call it Commonwealth till I die. But, we had a good time. We were the old people there at the we were way down at the furthest reaches we were a 2-beer walk from the stadium to the tailgate area. We were in fraternity, sorority row.
Oh, wow.
A little bit of a party going on down there. So it was us and a few other parents kind of hanging out. But it was kind of funny because one of the other groups of parents were there, and they were huge Ohio State fans. They all went to Ohio State. And they were just kind of laughing, basically, at the paltry turnout and tailgate experience. They were like,
words.
They said this is a quarter of what we experience.
I'm sure
at Ohio State. Which I mean, when you got a stadium that holds 100,000 plus and they fill it every week, yeah, it's a little different. But in typical Ohio State fashion, they're proud of their team, and rightfully so, I guess. They're
can't deny that.
Yeah, they're incredibly obnoxious. But anyway, it was. But for us, lucky for us, or for me, I guess I should say, it was incredibly hot. And everybody wanted to bail at halftime because Louisville, they had the game in hand by halftime. So, it is what it is. I suffered through it because my kid wanted me there, and we had a good time. We got to see, Bella and her friends, and we all had a good time. But we were all really heat beat by the time we made it back to Lexington. That's for sure.
You didn't get any sun on that head.
No, I wore a hat, and that's the other thing is, I had people. They're like, "Oh man, we'd give anything to see you in Cardinal gear," and I'm like, "Well, you still won't have seen me in Cardinal gear because I didn't wear it to that game yesterday. I would have shown up in Kentucky blue. My wife threatened me with divorce, so I didn't do that. I just had a white golf shirt, and I was told I couldn't wear Kentucky and I couldn't wear Bowling Green because I briefly entertained the idea of wearing Bowling Green colors. I was told no, so nobody mentioned anything about me wearing my Transylvania University hat. So I wore my Transy hat with the big bat on it, and it's black and red, and it's the colors, so it kind of fit in. So from a distance, I might look like I was there to support the Louisville Cardinals, but nothing could have been further from the truth. I was cheering every little thing that Bowling Green did, correctly in the game, which those moments were few and far between at the beginning. So anyway, but
it's nuts.
I made it out of there. Fan is short for fanatic, and I'm the guy that we've got friends who will say, "Oh, we cheer for Louisville when they're not playing Kentucky." No, we don't. Do you think Duke fans cheer for North Carolina when they're not playing each other? No. I mean, that's not how it works. That's just not how it works. So I don't cheer for Louisville in anything. I cheer for Bella when she's singing in the choir, and that's about it.
And she doesn't wear U of L across her front of her shirt.
They don't do that in the choir. They don't sport the cardinal with teeth, which is another.
I'm telling you though, that's one of the better collegiate logos.
It's all right.
The Heisman pose cardinal and the Duncan cardinal are two of the best. You're not going to like hearing that, but I think they're pretty fire.
That's blasphemy. That's terrible.
It's better than that U and K that they stole from Houston.
Yeah, that I will agree. Kentucky's current logo is awful. We need to bring back the Power K on the football helmets, and we need to bring back the Wildcat coming around the edge of the big UK logo. Those are the two best. We're not getting Wildcat penis tongue back. That's another story. No. We're not getting that one back. If you ever see a shirt,
if you're curious,
out there,
look that up.
Those are collector's items. So if you go into a thrift shop and you see a Wildcat penis tongue, you go ahead and buy that, no matter what the size. But anyway,
this is digressed.
Keeping things on the UK spectrum. There was a little scuffle this week, or at least from what we've been told, on the UK basketball side of things.
Well, you're talking
against the Cardinals.
Yeah, you're talking about Mark Pope and the U of L coach. They were going to visit Taylon Kenny, right?
Yeah, right.
Who lives in Newport.
Northern Kentucky.
Yeah, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, but they weren't allowed to make contact with him until after midnight.
Yeah,
or at 12
that's
o'clock.
the other thing. Yeah, apparently there was a dead period where these NCAA coaches could not make contact with recruits, and I didn't realize this was the thing. I should have, I guess, but at whatever point, 12:01 a.m. on the day that they're allowed, this all went down.
Yeah, because that's a lot of coaches will call. I have a friend whose daughter's highly sought-after softball player, and at 12:01, her phone didn't stop ringing until after 1 a.m. College coaches calling and offering. Anyway, so Mark Pope. So Taylon Kenny is the number 1 rated point guard in the country. He's from Newport, and said, okay, Kentucky, Louisville, you all be here at midnight, and you guys can come in and visit with me and the fam. Well, depending on which side you listen to, Mark Pope was late.
He's supposed to have the 12 a.m. or 12:01 a.m. slot. He was supposed to have the first visit.
Yeah, and Louisville had, I guess, the 12:02 visit, if you will.
Yeah.
Pope was late, so Louisville goes in, and this is how the story goes. Pope accused Louisville of jumping the gun, and Louisville said, well, you were late, so we went ahead and went in, and I think words were exchanged, and then depending on which story you believe, they hugged and made up, and maybe the rivalry just went to another level. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to. There were so many things flying around out there that, of course, people take that stuff and run with it, but. Pope is such a laid-back dude that you don't really think about him. I feel like discretion is a better part of valor.
But he is a competitor.
He is.
It doesn't.
Yeah,
I would not put it past him to actually have some choice words. Now, he probably didn't cuss the guy out.
Yeah, gosh darn it, you.
Yeah. But anyway,
but I mean,
that's allegedly the
in
story.
My head. All I see,
and it's on the internet, so believe what you will.
Exactly. All I see in my head is Mark Pope at 6'10", pulling the Three Stooges with his hand on 5'8" Pat Kelsey's forehead while Pat Kelsey
swinging.
attempts to swing at him, because that's kind of what it is. I mean, and there were a lot of people showing, because last year in Kentucky's basketball game with Louisville, there was a little dust up during the game. And the coaches had to get involved. And if you see the right screenshot, there's one that appears that Mark Pope has Louisville coach Pat Kelsey almost in a headlock, pulling him out of, they're trying to break things up. But, yeah, Pope's towering over him, and he's got him wrapped up. So, yeah, I hope it does. I hope it, causes this to go to a different level from a competitive standpoint.
And we've seen these dust-ups before. DeMarcus Cousins. Had a dust up there in Rupp Arena against Louisville. Willie Cauley-Stein throwing down a dunk and then standing over a guy and staring him down.
That was the best.
And even we are in Georgetown, Kentucky, and you'll remember this when I bring this up, but there were 2 men who were waiting for blood transfusions.
There was dialysis.
Kidney
dialysis.
Thank you.
Yes.
Who got into a fight because one was a Louisville fan, one was a Kentucky fan. This was at a dialysis clinic here in Georgetown.
Yeah.
So it's just the nature of the rivalry. And
that's why I don't wear anything U of L, even though I have a kid who goes there. I mean, that's how deep it runs. I mean, I feel like, it's the same thing as Michigan, Ohio State. We hate each other.
So we'll know for sure next Sunday. We're recording on Sunday. We'll know for sure next Sunday because Taylon Kenny is going to make his announcement, I believe, at 1:30 on CBS Sports Headquarters, which is an online version of CBS Sports. So if you're interested.
And it's all going to be for naught because he's probably going to go to Kansas.
Well, I mean, there is that possibility.
A lot of things seem to say that they feel like Kansas has they say the leading edge. Kansas might have the biggest checkbook for him at this point.
That's possible, but you also got to remember that both Louisville and Kentucky are also in the running for Tyron Stokes.
Yes.
Who's the number 1 overall ranked player in the country and who is a Louisville native.
Yeah.
So it's only going to get more intense in the recruiting battles because, as you say, Pat Kelsey is he doesn't mind mixing it up.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be good for the rivalry. It is certainly good for U of L basketball and the program because they needed a shot in the arm.
Pat Kelsey, I mean, I laughed when they hired him, but he's the dude for the job. He's the right dude. I mean, he's got the right amount of attitude. He came in, and whether it was by luck or whatever, they won games last year probably they shouldn't have, and he's taken them to a point where that's where the rivalry – it's not a rivalry if one team is dominating, which is what Kentucky's been doing.
Hold your end of the deal.
So yeah, to see – you got to at least give it that. I will admit Kelsey makes it hard. He's a hard guy to hate because he's so enthusiastic about what he does and has done a good job.
And he has said the same thing about Mark Pope.
Yeah.
It's hard to dislike this guy and get like really into the rivalry because Pope is such a good dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'll be fun to see what happens with Kenny and with Stokes. Kentucky has turned a little bit more of attention to, I think they're kind of playing all their cards. They've turned their attention also to another highly touted guard, Deron Rippey Jr., who's about the same size player as Kenny. He's a 6'2", 180-pounder out of New Jersey. So I feel like we're kind of –
But you want to own the state.
Yeah.
You don't want a kid from Kentucky to go to a Kansas or if you're a Kentucky fan, you don't want a kid up in the 9th region to go to Louisville.
Yeah,
so
that's just not cool.
Yeah.
Not cool at all. The other UK basketball news this week that I didn't know anything about, and you mentioned it to me, and then I started researching it, but nobody knew about it, I guess, until he talked about it in an interview. But incoming leader of the team, Otega Oweh, hasn't been practicing for the last 4 weeks because he got Joe Burrowed at some point and has.
Don't say that. Don't say that. It's a lot different.
I hope so.
I've said it before here. The Bengals they have a tendency to Bengalize some of these players. So Rob Doster and Goodman came into town. What's his first name? Jeff Goodman, of Field of 68. I'm sure a lot of people have seen or heard about that, but they've been kind of doing a kind of a preseason tour of some of these places, taking their show on the road, and they were at UK last week and did one of their podcasts, and Otega Oweh revealed on the podcast, A Field of 68, that he had turf toe. And had even seen the same doctor that worked on Joe Burrow. Yeah. So that does not sound good. He was in a boot. He's out of a boot now, he revealed. And he said he's probably still
a couple weeks out
from being able to go full speed. But as we mentioned here last time, turf toe will linger. Turf toe can be really nasty.
Yeah,
because that's an injury that involves the joints in the big toe and in the foot, and you use those to push off. It makes it difficult to run, to even walk, and it could linger for a whole season.
Yeah, and now he did say in that interview on Field 68 that he said if there was a game tonight, I would play.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he's going to be effective.
Right. True.
Or he could jump like he normally does, and it's just there's a lot of variables there.
I'm hoping they take it easy with him, and get him healthy over this next
It's got to be
month.
a lot different too. Now, granted, Joe Burrow had surgery; his injury was that severe.
Right.
But for a football player versus a basketball player who's always jumping, I don't know what the dynamics of all that is, but.
Yeah, that was definitely a little bit concerning to hear that because we've got the whole Jaden Quaintance thing. When will he play? You don't want the prospective SEC Player of the Year not being on the floor pretty early on. We might be able to squeak by the first couple games, but it gets pretty serious pretty quick. because we got Louisville early. We can't be losing that one. So, yeah, I mean, we need this team to come together quickly. I mean, I think at least the early reports are Yelovich came into town from Europe, and he seems to be adjusting really well, and people are liking what they're seeing out of him. So this team's just it's exciting. I mean, they're going to be fun to watch, and I think they're and I keep seeing Steve's favorite player from last year, Colin Chandler, is getting a lot. He's getting a lot of press about he could be the breakout player of the SEC this year. So I think the kid's going to.
Well, I didn't say that he was my favorite player. He's a nice guy, though. I have done some interviews with him. Yeah. He's a good player.
Yeah.
It's really hard, I would assume, because the next college basketball game I play will be my first.
Yeah.
But for him to go on a Mormon mission and to sit out
right.
the length of time that he did, and to come back and suddenly be in game shape and have all your skills honed. No, it's going to take a while. Yeah. So
I felt like the last quarter of the season.
Yeah, he was very good.
He started coming on and showing why he was so highly touted prior to his mission. So yeah.
And as Doster and Goodman said, they are so deep at the guard position. I think those two guys said they're 7 deep there, and then he said Jeff Goodman said there's 6 or 7 guys who would play 30+ minutes anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and I think you could.
They know their basketball
with that kind of lineup against the right opponents. I think you could see Kentucky running 4 guards and a 6'9", 6'10" guy in there just to even things out a little bit. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this team and see how they come together. But we definitely need Oweh and his leadership in there, and just hopefully he's going to be healthy before the season starts. The other basketball note that we kind of threw out in our notes locally anyway for Kentucky high school basketball, big deal, is we're finally going to get a shot clock.
I was a little surprised when that news came out. Granted, it's not going to go into effect until 2027.
Season, right. So we got one more season of stall ball.
But I wouldn't call it stall ball. I just feel like, at the pros, obviously, players are so good. At the college level, players are very good. Then you get into the high school level, and it's like, you've got some teams that are not so good. But, you're going to get a 35-second shot clock for both boys and girls. Doesn't go into effect until 2027. There are some inherent issues, though, like the cost factor. We were looking it up online in the office. So if you have a gym, and some schools have a practice gym that if they have a tournament, like a Lexington Catholic, they have 2 gyms going at once. Well, that's four shot clocks that you're going to need. And some of them, they range in price from about $1,000 to over $5,000. So there are going to be some cost factors for some of these schools. The other thing is the human element part of it. You're going to have somebody that's sitting at the table courtside who's trained, who's going to be watching the game and not on their phone. And so there's, those issues that I worry about. But I think it's going to put a lot of pressure on coaches to figure out end of game situations, knowing that you're going to be up, but you've got a shot clock now. You can't milk it. Some things like that. But I've only read positive things from coaches. Boo Brewer, who played at U of L, who's now the coach at Bardstown, said, hey, this is just a natural progression of our game, because as soon as they go to college, even at the NIA level, like over here at Georgetown College where we live, there's shot clocks.
Yeah, you got to get used to it
at
some point.
And Steve Page, who coaches here, Great Crossing, won the Kentucky State Championship last year. He said that it's gonna change the way we have to coach, because it's going to speed things up, and we're going to have to get accustomed to that.
Well, and I think it's also going to serve to highlight players who are more of a take the ball to the hole, get my shot kind of players. You're going to see possibly a little bit more of the
one-on-one.
The one-on-one stuff. I think you could see that for sure.
Yeah.
But I think I agree. I mean, ultimately, I believe that it needs to be done because it still frustrates me that, like when you look at baseball, that they still use aluminum bats at, lower levels, and then you go to the majors and you got to.
Well, that's a cost factor issue because there are still some colleges who could not afford the number of wooden bats that their team would go through, and I get that. Obviously you can't use aluminum bats or metal bats. They're not really aluminum anymore, but metal bats in the big leagues because somebody would get killed.
Yeah.
But it's strictly a cost factor at the high school and the college level because of just the sheer number of wood that they would have to go through in a year. One other thing that the KHSAA did was they changed their transfer rule, and a lot of people had been urging the KHSAA to get into I won't say the 21st century, but basically it's bylaw 6, and it basically they changed the ruling to say that any varsity athlete who the year prior played less than 20% of their team's regular season games can transfer without sitting. Okay. So if you played more than 20%, that's going to be the threshold, and you want to move and transfer, you got to sit a year. So that'll cut down on some juniors who are like, well, maybe the grass is greener over there.
Yeah. Yeah, the KHSAA over the years have made some just frankly terrible decisions. You'll have kids whose parents legitimately take a new job in a different county and that kind of thing, and the player wouldn't be eligible to play because people would think there was something underhanded going on, and that player only got the job or that player's parents only got the job because they were recruiting the player.
Yeah.
Sometimes I felt like the KHSAA needed to go more on a case-by-case basis and really try to analyze this stuff.
You say that, but then if you look at the vast expanse logistically now, the KHSAA, the Kentucky High School Athletics Association, doesn't have an enforcement staff. They don't have an enforcement staff like the NCAA can hire lawyers, and they have folks who can go out and do their due diligence. So the KHSAA is relying upon the schools, the players, the parents to be honest and tell the truth, and if there isn't like a legitimate change of address or something to that effect, then what do you have to go on?
Yeah.
So their hands are tied. They have a very small staff at the KHSAA, and they put out a lot of fires.
Yeah. That's true. That is true. Other sports, Clayton Kershaw played his last home game, had his last home start for the Dodgers the other night.
When you take a dive into his numbers, which is what baseball is so good at, there are so many numbers. It's just part of the baseball history and lore. But if you look at Kershaw's numbers, they're unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And for baseball fans like us who are in the Eastern time zone with a guy who's playing on the West Coast, you don't ever get to see him play.
Enough, right, on a regular basis.
So you don't realize how important his career has been to the game or the kinds of numbers that he has. Yeah. But I mean, his 2.54 ERA, his earned run average is the best in the live ball era, which dates back to 1920.
Wow.
There's only 2.54 is his career ERA. It's the best since 1920. He's one of only 3 active pitchers who have won more than 200 games. The other 2 you've heard of, Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer. Mm-hmm. All 3 of those guys are Hall of Famers for sure. And he's arguably the greatest left-handed pitcher of this generation.
Right. And the fact that he, played his entire career with the Dodgers, came in 2008, 3 Cy Youngs, mm-hmm. an MVP, 11 mm-hmm. All-Star appearances, and 2 World Series titles, and more than 3,000 strikeouts.
And he's thrown a no-hitter.
Yeah,
he's in that club too.
Yeah, that's a Hall of Fame career. Dude, for sure.
Those numbers will stand the test of time.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's got at least one more guaranteed start. I think they said sometime this week he'll pitch at Seattle, and then depending on what happens in the playoffs, we may get to see him a little bit after that. But
Shohei Ohtani hit his 52nd home run the other night. Speaking of the Dodgers, I mean, this guy is a pitcher. Yeah. And he's hit 52 home runs.
Yeah, that's
he is like the ultimate unicorn.
Yeah, he's a unicorn
in all of pro sports.
Yeah, yeah. I'll finally start breaking down and watching a little baseball here in the next couple.
Well,
weeks.
It starts to get good because it's like the NBA. You know, the regular season. There's so many games, 162 games, and you know it doesn't really. Yes, the regular season does matter. You know, for the purists, but it doesn't get really good until those guys on the field feel like it matters,
right?
You know, and then they start playing. And just like with the NBA, the postseason is so good. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah, that's for sure. So I'll be watching a little bit of baseball as the next few weeks roll on. But you know, here we watched a little bit of your Cowboys today. Football didn't go quite as well as you were hoping for. They lost to the Bears. I don't know what the final score was, but it was not good.
No, Dallas only managed to get in the end zone once, I believe.
Today, I'm going to have to sit tonight and watch some highlights because today was all about special teams and defense because there were field goals getting blocked and fumbles getting stripped and returned for touchdowns.
Yeah,
it was pretty wild a day today, and you know the Bengals. They did their thing. They got absolutely trounced by the Vikings. 5 turnovers.
Yeah, the Vikings don't have a starting quarterback either, but the Bengals just look so helpless.
5 turnovers. I mean, you're not going to win a game if you have 5 turnovers. You know, some of the other games, and I said last week that it looked like Jordan Love was kind of rounded in shape for the Green Bay. Well, then they lost to the Browns today, 13-10. And it's not like they got just whipped by a quarterback who just went out and commanded the game because Flacco, who is, I mean, how old is he, 70? He's playing quarterback for the Browns, and he threw no touchdowns. But Jordan Love got sacked 5 times for Green Bay. So, yeah, this, like we were saying before we started tonight, Philly looks good. Beyond that,
they scored 26 straight today to get the win.
Yeah,
they were down big.
Yeah, beyond Philly, I think it's a toss-up. I haven't seen anybody who just looks like they're dominating. Or
Buffalo looks good.
Buffalo looks pretty solid. Yeah, I will give you that. So it may come down to, you know, getting those guys, a handful of teams make it to the playoffs and advance, and they'll be the teams that we expect. But yeah, Philly and Buffalo for sure. I'm sure the Chiefs will finally they'll get it together. But you know, they've gotten off to a tough start. So
give a shout out to Craig Skinner and the UK volleyball team. Yeah. They have had a brutal schedule. And they just ended a 6-game losing streak to U of L. Speaking of U of L,
yes,
at the Yum Center, it was the second and third matches, games, whatever they weren't even close. But it's their second top 10 win of the year. UK's already beaten number 5 Penn State, and they've lost to number 1 Nebraska and number 7 Pitt. So the SEC schedule is coming up. So Skinner and crew, I think they're looking for like their 8th straight SEC title.
Yeah.
They're really good. Yeah, they could win a national championship.
Yeah, if you're not,
if it falls right, they could win a national.
Yeah, if you're not aware, I mean, UK, you know, is low key a volleyball school, and they won a national championship a few years ago. Came out of nowhere, kind of to win that one. Which when we were in the throes of, you know, football having a rough year and basketball having a rough year, we suddenly became a volleyball school. So that was good. But yeah, they're solid.
And your Ryder Cup starts this week.
Yeah, I'm getting really stoked. I started looking at that a little bit today. Friday we kick it off with you know, the United States versus Europe, and it'll be the same as it always is.
Is it foursomes?
It's foursomes
on
in the
Friday
morning.
And Saturday.
Yeah, they do foursomes in the morning, which for if you're not up on it, it's basically the United States will send out 2 guys as a team versus 2 guys from Europe, and they will play an alternate shot in the morning, which means like if Steve and I were teammates, Steve tees off, and then no matter where he puts that ball, I've got to hit the second shot.
That's right.
And they do that. They alternate shots until the ball is holed, and they take the only time that changes is if one guy tees off on all the odd holes, one tees off on all the evens. So that's the only time that it doesn't alternate. But then in the afternoons, they do what are called 4 balls, 2-on-2, and each player plays their own ball. Best score becomes the team score. If you tie, that's the team score. And unlike regular golf where you just count all your strokes, in match play, it's hole by hole. So you and your teammate can have a terrible hole and just lose the hole to the Europeans, and then you try to win the next hole. So that's the way it works. They do that on Friday and Saturday, and then on Sunday they come out and play singles matches 1-on-1. The cool thing about the way the Ryder Cup works, though, is each Ryder Cup captain has to present their lineup unbeknownst to the other captain. So you lay out who you want to play. So Steve and I might be the leading team for the United States, but we don't know who we're going to play on the European side, and vice versa. They don't know who they're going to play. And the same thing for the singles. The captain just decides, I'm going to send out. Do you send out Scotty Scheffler first and make a statement and just annihilate somebody, or do you save Scotty for middle, cleanup hitter kind of thing? Right. So a lot of strategy involved. There's 28 matches total. So you have 14 matches, I guess. Actually, 16 matches the first 2 days. You have 8 on Friday, 8 on Saturday, which means you have guys sit out. Each coach has to decide, who am I not going to play? It's kind of like they're the guys going to ride the bench, I guess. And then everybody plays on Sunday. Although the last couple of guys out on Sunday, their match might not matter because it could be over.
Yeah.
So 28 points up for grabs.
Vegas has Scotty Scheffler as the odds-on favorite to score the most points for his team.
Makes sense.
And your boy Bryson DeChambeau as the number 2 pick.
Which DeChambeau, as much as I can't stand the dude, in Ryder Cup play, he's exactly the guy. He's the guy you just hate him, but when he's on your team, you're all about it. And he brings the fire to this Ryder Cup team that I'm hoping rubs off on some of the other guys. He knows how to play Ryder Cup golf. I don't like him outside of that, but
and in Ryder Cup you got to get off to a fast start.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very important that they have the right guys out there. And the Euros they have 3 of the hottest golfers going right now.
Yeah.
Scotty Scheffler, the American notwithstanding, but like Rory McIlroy has already won recently within the last couple of months. Tommy Fleetwood, of course, won the Tour Championship.
I love Tommy Fleetwood. I like him.
And Justin Rose just won. He won the St. Jude.
Yeah.
So they've got guys who are proven. Obviously, if you're on the Ryder Cup, you're proven. I shouldn't say that, but they've got guys who have won recently, and of course, Scotty has won 6 times already this year. Something sick.
Yeah, the Europeans are bringing back basically the same team that they won the title with, or the cup with, in 2023 in Rome. One of the few guys I can think of that was on that team, not on this team, is Sergio Garcia, who is one of the most legendary Ryder Cup players in European history. I can't stand him. And I'm kind of glad he's not on the team, because even though he's not played well over the last few years, man, you throw him into the Ryder Cup, dude's going to win.
He's
points.
good.
So I'm kind of glad he's not.
Just like Tiger was not good for a lot of years in Ryder Cup.
Good in the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to watch that. That's one of the few golf events now without Tiger Woods that I still get really pumped up to watch.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun. I'm hoping the rowdy crowd at Bethpage Black in New York brings the Americans.
And there's a bit of gamesmanship going on there because the European team has already been to Bethpage, kind of sneaked in under the cloak of darkness and got a look at the place.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think that was a source of consternation.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to try to carve out a little bit of time to hang out down here in the man cave and watch this week.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah,
no doubt.
No doubt. All right, shift gears a little bit to music, and again, not a whole lot going on concert-wise for us. Neither one of us have been to anything in a while. I've got a couple things on the radar down the road, but musically, there was an interesting story I saw this week, and I threw it out there to you, but just in the last couple of days, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, and 7 states have filed a lawsuit against Live Nation and Ticketmaster, which I think is long overdue. If you're a music fan and you've tried to buy tickets anytime in the last 10 years, you probably know what I'm talking about.
Well, this is the second biggest lawsuit that's happened in the last 2 years because in 2024 there was an antitrust lawsuit filed against Live Nation and Ticketmaster for basically the same reasons. This one is more of a consumer protection thing, but you know how it is. And I'm sure everybody watching or listening has bought concert tickets. First of all, you can't get in to buy them online
when they go on sale.
Yeah, when they go on sale. And then all the add-on charges, the fees are outrageous.
Yeah.
And this is basically the crux of what all this is about. Is it basically they're claiming that Live Nation turned a blind eye to the fact that a lot of these brokerage companies and these secondhand market companies have their bots.
Yeah, they scoop up the tickets.
Yeah, they have when
they go on sale.
That's right. And then they raise the ticket price.
Yeah, I mean, I've said for years there's a real problem when the secondary companies like SeatGeek and Vivid and all those companies, they are basically owned. A lot of them are partially owned by the Ticketmasters and the Live Nations. That's obviously a conflict of interest. But yeah, like Steve said, if you've ever tried to get in the minute tickets go on sale, and and now there's the artist pre-sale, there's the fan club pre-sale, and you can start buying tickets, 3 days or 4 days before they go on sale to the general public. Well, guess what? The secondary sellers are also buying on those pre-sales, and a ticket that's supposed to cost you $100. Then on Tuesday,
there's
Friday,
$50 add-ons.
Well, not only that, but that same secondary market ticket is going for $200, $300, $400, on top of that. So, it's just ridiculous.
And I hate to give them credit, but it was the Swifties, all the Swifties out there, the Taylor Swift fans who really brought all this to a head because the Eras tour, whenever that was, a couple of years ago, and you can imagine the demand of tickets out there for a Taylor Swift show, especially on a tour that was, billed and marketed as it was. Now suddenly they can't get in when these tickets go on sale, and it just created all this chaos. And thankfully, we're headed down that path of litigation, and it probably needed to happen.
Hopefully. I mean, Pearl Jam was way ahead of their time in their fight with Ticketmaster for sure.
I remember that.
But I mean, even just like last year, one of my favorite artists that I've talked about multiple times here is Billy Strings, and he has gotten to the point where he plays these venues that are of small enough size that the demand for his tickets gets to be kind of crazy, and very quickly his tickets that are supposed to be $75 are on secondary for $200, $300, $500. And he even went online and posted a video on Instagram where he was apologizing. He said, because people were complaining, they're like, how can you charge that much for your tickets? And he said, look, I'm not charging that much for our tickets. He said, our tickets are never more than $100. He said, if you're paying more than that, or you're also being sold tickets before they're on sale anywhere else, he said, you're not buying a legitimate ticket. And he said, look, he said, Taylor Swift couldn't beat Ticketmaster.
That's true.
He said, I can't beat Ticketmaster. He said, I just can't do it. So I'm hoping that something comes of this eventually, because it's just gotten out of control as far as, like Steve's saying, you have a ticket that's $100. Well, there'll be another $30, $40, $50 in fees.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just kind of crazy what the ticket and the live music, and it's unfortunate because there's no experience like seeing one of your favorite musicians live. It's just I can't tell people enough, especially as I get older. I'm like, spend the money, go see the person live. It might be a splurge for you, but go do it.
You know what else was fun about that whole experience? Camping out for tickets.
Yeah,
standing in line waiting for tickets for hours, or literally taking a lawn chair and getting in line before the ticket window opened with a sleeping bag and waiting in line. I remember doing that.
Yeah, and this was and people are, if you're young enough
before the internet.
Like my kids don't understand this. They don't understand that you didn't just get online and buy a ticket. I mean, there was like the most technologically advanced thing we had at some point was you actually could call at one point through Ticketmaster and buy a ticket. But back in the day, we went and we waited. We camped out to buy tickets in a line.
And we live in Georgetown, Kentucky. We have Rupp Arena, one of the largest arenas in the country, in Lexington, which is 15 minutes up the road. We were fortunate as well that there were enough shows big enough that Rupp got smart, Ticketmaster got smart, and they would put outlets in various places.
Yeah.
It might be in a drugstore, but you could go buy a ticket to a concert and you might be 20 people deep.
Yeah.
Or you could go to Rupp Arena at the main ticket office, the box office, which would guarantee you a great seat, and you might be 200 deep.
Right.
But that was all part of the fun as well.
Yeah, I went and bought, speaking of the outlets, there was a little independent pharmacy over in Frankfurt. Forgotten the name of the place now. They've long since closed, but they were a Ticketmaster outlet.
Yeah.
And for a long time, they were kind of an unknown place to go get in line. You could go get in line and be like number 4, number 5. Well, what was cool is if you went and stood in line at an outlet or at the main box office, they processed each transaction with each person. When we went to this place in Frankfurt, the little drugstore, they would come out 20 minutes before the tickets would go on sale, and they would go down the line of people and ask, how many tickets are you wanting to buy? And then when the Ticketmaster computer opened up, if they knew that our line of 20 people wants to buy 100 tickets, they would just punch in blocks of 10. They would just buy 10, 10, 10, 10. And then they would sort out the money after the fact. So it was really cool. We got some great seats like that because they saw the big picture and like, we can get our people the best seats by working it like this. So.
Yeah, now you get into you get online, get into the box office website, and you're in queue.
Yeah.
You might be the 89th person, but then you've got all these bots, these automated programs from these secondary sellers who go in and they somehow manage to get in before you do and grab all these tickets. So I don't miss that part of it.
No. And I mean, I don't think this is not going to be something that I think this will have to be changed in stages. I don't think this lawsuit's not going to be revolutionary, but it's going to be a step-by-step process.
And I have friends who work for Live Nation in Nashville, and I hope everything is cool, but this is definitely something that's been a long time coming, and it's only going to be better for the consumer. Ultimately, because you can't have a Billy Strings going, okay, I'm taking over all ticket sales for everything, and you guys are coming through me. That's just way too much for a guy to handle.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It just these individual artists can't do it. I mean, like he said, if your Taylor Swifts and your Pearl Jams can't do it,
right, then who can?
Definitely smaller artists can't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, some reform comes in that area. But since we didn't have other music stuff to talk about, I looked up. We've done this a couple times in the past, and I just did some like music history things, and Steve doesn't know what I've got on my list, so we might have. But talking about ticket prices, the number one thing that popped up on my list, the oldest in music history, was This Week in Music History, 1964. The Beatles played a concert at the Paramount Theater in New York City. 3,700 people in 1964 paid $100 a piece to see the Beatles.
Wow.
And so I was like, well,
did you do the conversion?
I did the conversion. I looked it up. That's $1,000 in today's money. So a tenfold increase. So basically, and I was sitting there thinking today when I saw that, I was like, I wonder what $100 from 1964 is worth. It's comparable to now. And it's $1,000. And I don't know who I would pay $1,000 to see right now. And not very many. It would be on this one hand, and it would have to be from
somebody coming back from the grave,
from the first couple rows. And yeah, I mean,
I would see Zeppelin with Jason Bonham.
Yeah, I'd pay that to see them. And if I could get a good enough seat, I'd go see. Even now, maybe some guys like the Stones or somebody just.
Maybe,
but even that, it would be hard for me to.
Yeah, that's
it'd be
a
hard
lot of
for
money
me to choose. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. That those people, 3,700 people, $100 a piece in 1964. This week in music history, 1968, Led Zeppelin goes into the studio at London's Olympic Studios to start recording their first album, debut album. And at the time, they were still considered the Yardbirds. That's who they were getting ready to. They were going on tour as the Yardbirds. They go into the studios to record and their first album. They did it recorded and mixed in 36 hours.
I'm not surprised because those guys were prolific.
Well, and
that's just kind of how it was done back in.
Well, and not only that, but for that particular album, Jimmy Page, who formed the band and was going to produce this album, he paid for all the studio time up front.
So we got to do it.
And he basically told them, he said, "Boys, we got to get this down."
But he and John Paul Jones, they were studio players to begin with.
Knew how to do
they
it.
knew how to. Yeah, they knew what they were doing. They knew how to navigate that. And I mean, that album is legendary. One of the greatest albums in the history of music.
Absolutely legendary. Third up on the list, sticking with the to me, the Zeppelin and the Beatles, obviously two biggest bands of the 60s. 1969, this week, John Lennon announces his departure from the Beatles.
I didn't realize it was that quickly, meaning like in the 60s.
Man, the Beatles, when you look at, I was never a Beatles fan.
Still not.
As a young guy. And I appreciate them much more now.
Yeah, shoot me.
But the amount of music, when you think of the Beatles and you think of all the songs they have, you just imagine in your head that this took place over this extremely long amount of time.
No.
Man, it was all compressed into about 5 or 6 years, really. When you look at it, what they did in just a ridiculously small amount of time. So, and I didn't totally write this down, but I remember reading that somewhere along the same lines, like 68, 69, Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, and the original one, made their like 5th alteration of the Beatles' clothing and hairstyles on their models within like a 4-year time frame. So that's how fast they were developing and changing and doing all that stuff. So pretty cool. 1970 this week, Jimi Hendrix dies of an overdose on September the 18th.
Once stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Yep, he was. And you read about, he's, of course, a member of the famous class of 27 or whatever they call it, all these famous musicians and actors and actresses who died at 27 years old.
Yeah.
And there's a lot. I need to dig in a little deeper on this and see if I can find an autobiography or something. But, it's always been considered he overdosed, which is that's what killed him. But there's a lot of conspiracy theory about somebody overdosed him on purpose.
Kind of like the Michael Jackson thing.
So, you know, he's one of those dudes that, you know,
We'll never know.
made an incredible impact in about 4 years time when you look at what he did. So, yeah, Jimi Hendrix.
Left-hander playing a right-handed guitar.
Upside down. That's just nuts. 1976, AC/DC releases Dirty Deeds, their third album. I forget how many copies. I think I read it has sold over 6 million copies, making it the third highest selling AC/DC album of all time, behind number 1, Highway to Hell, and then number 2 is Back in Black.
Wait a minute. Highway to Hell sold more than Back in Black.
That's the source I read today, said Highway to Hell has sold more than Back in Black.
Because Back in Black is like
Back in Black is like a
30 million.
Well,
it's
like a greatest hits album by itself.
That's a banger front and back.
Yeah. There's not a song you can skip on Back in Black.
And their first album after Bon Scott,
right?
Same thing.
Yeah.
Died of an overdose.
Yeah. 1977, 1 year after that AC/DC album, is Meatloaf releases Bat Out of Hell.
Not a fan.
I like it. I didn't have that album in my collection, and I bought some stuff off Marketplace a few weeks or maybe a month or so ago that had it in there, and I brought it home. Great copy. I listened to it, and I was kind of like, I don't need to keep this. So I immediately put it in my box to take to the next show and sell it. But crazy enough, that album has sold 43 million copies worldwide.
Yeah.
And still sells 200,000 plus a year.
I think a lot of it is on reputation alone because I don't know that it's the greatest album in the world.
There's a couple of songs on there that everybody knows.
Right.
But yeah, I kind of agree. I think just from a nostalgia standpoint, I thought I liked that album more than I did, and then when I put it on and listened to it, I thought, no, I don't need that anymore. This week in 1983, Kiss appears on MTV for the first time without makeup.
I actually watched that.
Yeah.
It was kind of a Kiss Unplugged, all acoustic, and I was the cool thing or the funny thing, I don't know what word you would use to describe it, but there was always a cat and mouse game between members of the band and the public and their fans. They would appear in public without the makeup, but they would have a mask on, or they would pull up above, and they were always photographed that way. And then there would always be the occasional photograph that would make it into some of these fan magazines of them, like, being caught off guard, without the makeup. Yeah. But to see them without the makeup, like, okay, they finally realized, look, this has kind of run its course. I thought it was kind of cool that they were able to do that.
Well, I mean, and I can't remember what album they released right after that, which studio album, but it sold like 3 times as many as the previous album. So it definitely drove some interest in them at that time frame.
And then there became a point where it was like the fans wanted them back in the makeup.
Yeah, because that was 96
for nostalgic purposes.
When the original lineup got back together, put the makeup on, and that's when I finally got to see him after wanting to see him when I was 7 years old. I finally got to see him with makeup on. So that was worth the wait, I guess. 1987. This is kind of obscure, but for me, being a kind of a jazz fan, but Jaco Pastorius died following I didn't realize this. He got into a fight with a bouncer at a club in Florida, and I guess ended up in a coma or something, and ended up dying because he got in a fight with a bouncer at a club.
One of the greatest bass players ever.
In fact,
I own a couple of Weather Report albums.
I've got about 9 or 10 Weather Report albums.
And I think I've told you before, I saw his nephew, who also is a bass player, who plays. I saw him once live. So
early. I think it was early.
Runs in the family. It's
early 2000s. There was some music entity named him the greatest bass player of all time, which you probably wouldn't get a lot of argument out of a lot of
good
people.
ones out there.
Yeah, there's a bunch of good ones. I will be seeing probably for me the second greatest bass player of all time in November. It's Thanksgiving weekend. I'll be seeing Victor Wooten as part of Bela Fleck and the Flecktones. They're going to be up in Cincinnati, and I've got tickets to that show. So I've seen him solo, and that dude can play, man. I mean, to lay down a bass funk line that's just unbelievable. So, yeah, pretty awesome. So that was 87. 1992, Radiohead releases Creep, which is one of the most covered songs ever. My oldest kid does a lot of open mic stuff, covers Creep a lot. There's some really good versions of that over the years. 96, a dude named Jack Gillis got married to a young lady named Meg White. He took her name and became Jack White, one of my favorite artists on the planet. They told everybody that they were brother and sister for 5 years. Don't know why they felt like that was the way to go, but they did it.
You just read that? I thought they were brother and sister.
Yeah, they were married, and some journalist uncovered their marriage license in 2001. And that's kind of relevant because they're going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year, so that should be fun to see them. I'll be anxious to see if they reunite and play, because Meg has kind of dropped out of the music spotlight since the White Stripes.
If you've never heard their music, turn on a ball game. You'll hear Seven Nations Army at some
you'll
point.
hear Seven Nation Army, which is just an anthem. And I mean, that dude, just this past weekend at Bourbon and Beyond, I've seen more than one report that said, for their money, best set of the weekend was Jack White. And that's cool, considering he went on after Ringo Starr and right before Sturgill Simpson. There were a lot of good musicians out there, but I was fortunate enough to see Jack twice last summer, and man, dude puts on a rock show. That's for sure. I would go see him tomorrow night if I had the chance. The last little note I had on here of music history was that this week in 2014, we've mentioned her a couple times tonight, Taylor Swift releases Shake It Off, which was her second #1 song, and it debuted at #1. It's one of only like 20, well, at the time it was only like the 21st or 22nd song to debut single at #1. So, and she's been fairly successful since then. I think we can say. Once she hooked up with that football player guy, she's done all right for herself. Anyway,
I'll believe it when I see it that they get married.
Yeah, I kind of think you're right.
And even then, I think the over/under. I'll give the marriage the over/under like 4 years.
It's going to generate the most killer 4-album breakup epic. I mean, she's gonna write songs for months after when they do break up. But my kids have seen her once or twice. I'd still like to see her in concert. I feel like she probably puts on an incredible show. The first time my wife and kids went to see her, my wife, and we've talked about this as well, all of my family members, they're all good singers, so they know what they're talking about. My wife said the first time they saw Taylor Swift, she doesn't think she sang an actual note.
Wow.
She thought it was all lip synced. Now, since then, my kids saw Taylor on the Eras tour, and she's definitely become a much more mature artist and can get out there and do it for real.
Milli Vanilli got their start that way.
Yeah, that worked out for them. I think one of them, he's no longer with us, at least.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think the current term, at least on social media, is unalived. Oh. So yeah. Anyway, the only other music I had this week is kind of interesting. I sent Steve a picture and I said, "Don't be too jealous of the album I picked up tonight." And it's the soundtrack from the Minions movie about Gru. And I saw the cover, it caught my attention, and it was cheap. But then I flipped it over and looked at the track listing. It's a double album. I was listening to it when Steve got here, and it takes all these classic, primarily 70s and then disco era songs, and then they got all these newer artists to sing them, to do covers. Shining Star, originally done by Earth, Wind & Fire, This one gets a treatment from Brittany Howard of Alabama Shakes. And if you're not familiar with Alabama Shakes, Brittany Howard,
belt.
she's got some pipes. And I'm so glad that they took a big break and kind of broke up. They're now back together. They're about to release a new album. They're touring. That girl can sing.
Yeah.
And she's a good guitar player too. So that's a lot of fun. This album's also got Funky Town, made famous by a band called Lips Incorporated. I think that was their one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
On this version is done by St. Vincent. Fly Like an Eagle from Steve Miller Band on this record is done by Thundercat, he's a kind of a crazy dude. I've got one of his albums that's not associated with the Minions. Vehicle, which that's a song I always kind of like, what is that song? And then I hear it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's I'm Your Vehicle Baby. But this one's done by Gary Clark Jr., who's incredible. And then another good one on this one is Black Magic Woman from Santana. That's done by a rapper that I'd never heard of. I'm showing my age. Her name is Tierra Whack. Don't know who that is, but she sounds good on Black Magic Woman, so I kind of like it. Fun album. Artwork is cool. I'll throw a picture up of that. It's one that'll end up going on the wall because when you open it up, it's just it's a big graphic of the Minions, which, those movies are great. I love them. I think they're one of the most interesting characters to be put out in animated movies in a long time, but they'll get on the wall. And we were talking about I'm looking over here at my album wall. For months, it had been the Herb Alpert tribute.
Yeah.
I put that up, and I usually change out the album wall about once a month. And then I had this flood happen in my house, so Herb Alpert got he got a residency on the album wall. But yeah, this past week, I got some awesome Disney albums from a friend, and I bought them. Not necessarily to listen to at all. I bought them mainly for the artwork, which is really cool. So I decided to do a Disney tribute on the wall of some classic stuff. I threw a couple of more recent, 2 recent albums from Disney. I did Soul, which Soul was about a jazz musician, and rightfully so, John Batiste did a lot of the music on that, along with the score being done by Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails, which that was a revelation for me to realize that Soul was far from the first Disney or soundtrack score that Trent Reznor had done. So you got a guy who puts out the kind of music he does with Nine Inch Nails and then turns around and does these Disney movie scores, which is pretty cool. And then the other one is Coco. Coco, if you've not watched the Disney movie Coco, you don't need to have kids to watch that movie. It's absolutely one of the most beautiful movies I think I've ever seen. It's a great movie. If you've got a big TV and you can turn all the lights off in your room and watch that movie, the colors and the music and everything, it's just really good. So I'm a huge fan of that one. So I threw that up there amongst all of the other really old school 50s and 60s Disney movies. So a lot of fun. But what about food? You eat this week?
Couple for me. One, a food truck now that is making its way around Lexington. A minister, his name is Jesse, and he has bottled a barbecue called Jesse's Slow Good. They finally got a food truck, he and his wife, and they've been doing this for a while. I bring him up because on Sundays he feeds the homeless with his truck.
Cool.
So Jesse is a minister, and he does really good barbecue. If you like barbecue, we did a little feature on him the other day for the TV station, and he offered me some catfish.
Does he have a certain place he sets up every week, or does he move around?
He's been moving around a little bit, but mostly he's going to be at the Beaumont Liquor Barn.
Okay. Fitting for a minister.
Yeah, I think
he's probably there picking up communion wine. That's okay. What's the name of his truck?
It's Jesse's Slow Good.
Okay, all right. We'll have to look for that.
He's kind of he's got a pit out front and a truck, and Yeah, good stuff. We've done stuff with them before, and they're just very sweet people.
Cool.
My oldest grandson had a birthday, and he wanted to have a little birthday dinner at Wallace Station.
Oh yeah, good
So
choice.
I hadn't been there in many, many years, and it's one of those forgotten gems. Chef Weta Michael, who's kind of legendary around these parts, she has several restaurants, including Wallace Station. And they're kind of a low key, really really good place because they mostly do sandwiches.
Yeah, great burgers.
Yeah, and I had the Wally burger,
Yeah.
which is their standard, and it was outstanding. And speaking of catfish, my grandson, who's an avid fisherman, at now 12, he had the catfish, and he and his mom and his sister and dad go there all the time. So.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Their burgers. It's been a couple years since I've been over there, but they've got a burger called the Big Brown, which is named after former Kentucky Derby winner of the same name. But that particular burger, Guy Fieri from the Food Network of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, he went there and he said that's one of the top 5 burgers he's ever had, and I'd put it up there as far as best burgers I've ever tasted. Yeah, it's good for sure.
They are equally as known for their fried chicken too.
Yeah.
But Wallace Station, it's on Frankfort Pike, just inside the Woodford County line.
It's a beautiful drive out there if you want.
A lot of horse country.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend it. Put a picture up here.
Yeah. I had a few things this week that were really good. I try to take my lunch to work every day. Just, we cook and have leftovers and that kind of thing. So I try to be good, not spend a bunch of money. But with our kitchens and stuff out of whack, I can be easily swayed. And one of my buddies at the pharmacy, he sent me a message and said, hey, don't bring your lunch to work tomorrow. And there's a sandwich shop in Lexington called South of Wrigley, and they do some just crazy specials, a couple different times a week. They'll throw up some stuff. But this week they had a sandwich called the Peaches and Scream. And it was a buttermilk fried chicken with bacon, pimento cheese, pickles, and then it had fresh peach slices, jalapenos, and a peach and jalapeno infused hot honey dressing, all on a toasted bun. I'm going to throw up a picture. My picture's terrible. It just doesn't do it justice because their sandwiches, this place, I love these guys at South of Wrigley, but do whatever you do, don't go there before church. Don't go with a white shirt on. Because you're going to have sandwich dripping down to your elbows. They should just serve everything with like a roll of paper towels because they're messy. But man, they are so good. They're not cheap. This particular sandwich, all in, I was in for $17 for a sandwich. Wow. But with all the ingredients they had on it, I don't know how they made any money on it, to be honest with you, because I didn't need anything else to go with this sandwich to be full. The heat, man, it didn't seem like it was that hot starting out, but then it was building. By the time I'm done, I'm wiping sweat off my bald head. So if you've not made your way to South of Wrigley, that place, they're in Lexington. They're on Southland Drive. Absolutely incredible sandwiches. I've not had a miss from them at this point. So
correct me if I'm wrong. Wrigley, of course, is reference to Wrigley Field in Chicago, and most of their menu or some of their menu is Chicago style.
Yes, they do a lot of Chicago style sandwiches, and I don't have a lot of familiarity with those types of sandwiches. I've had a few of them when we travel and that kind of thing, but through social media, the reports just keep coming back. They're like, this is the closest you're going to get to getting a Chicago, like Italian beef or those kind of sandwiches. But they do Reubens. They'll occasionally throw a burger out there that, from all I've heard, the burgers are amazing. So South of Wrigley, those guys, check them out for sure. And I would advise getting there early because a lot of times they sell out if they're doing something special. So that's always one you want to do. We did get on the grill a little bit this week. I had to toot my own horn a little bit with Steve. I grilled a couple of porterhouse steaks that were in excess of £1 a piece the other night. And we get our beef for the last 5 or 6 years. We've gotten a quarter beef from the Burkhead family over in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. They package it all up for us. They vacuum seal everything, but typically there's a couple steaks in each package, so we'll thaw them out. And I know good and well that my wife's not a huge eater. We're not going to need both of those steaks, especially these porterhouse that were as big as this piece of paper. But through some Kinders, I used Kinder's salt and pepper and garlic seasoning on them, covered them up, and just threw those things on the grill for about 3 minutes aside, and it might be one of the best steaks. It's definitely top 5 steaks I've ever grilled in my life. I finished off the last little bit of it, the leftovers, on a sandwich actually earlier today. Yeah, so there's this. It's hard for me to go out and pay $40 or $50 for a steak in a restaurant.
I'm with you on that.
When you can, if you've got good beef to start with, and you, like I told you, just put it on the grill and don't F it up.
Right.
Pay attention and, don't burn it.
I told you, I don't really go out and buy steaks anymore in the restaurant, but I will tear up a prime rib.
I love a good prime rib, and we make those occasionally here for, we almost always have a prime rib at Christmas. So we may take some pictures of that when that rolls around this year. I may see if I can talk somebody into doing one for Thanksgiving. But
there you go.
I had another trip this week to Big Kahuna, which is another one of my favorite places in Lexington. Our boss at work, she decided to buy lunch for our little group, and so I had their pork katsu plate, which is just a big tenderloin that's covered in panko fried, and they do macaroni salad and a sticky rice, which I always thought was kind of weird that you get macaroni salad and rice. I don't know. That's odd, but I'm not going to complain. It's good. Really
the price
stuff.
Was right.
Yeah, the price was right. When somebody else is buying, I'll eat pretty much anything. But wandered over today to the Midway Fall Festival. I mean, I'm sure it's like this in a lot of places, but in Kentucky, every little town has a little fall festival.
Yeah.
And this weekend was in Midway, Kentucky, and so I failed to take a picture of my food. I got a picture of the beer. Throw that up. That's typical for me. Is over the years since I've been such a beer nerd, I'll always get a picture of the beer. But we got some food today from a Jamaican truck. So it was jerk chicken and shrimp with rice, and it was a cabbage dish. I don't know what they put in that cabbage, and I'm not normally a huge cabbage fan. Mm-hmm. This was amazing. Wow. But yeah, it was fun. We got over there.
So there's hope.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain ways I'll eat some cabbage. We've talked about this, cabbage, collard greens. Steve's not a collard green fan, and I will eat collard greens if they're done right.
It's like eating grass.
Bring me the soul food, man. Collard greens, and you gotta throw some vinegar on there.
Yeah.
You gotta have some vinegar going, but good stuff. We'll and I'm sure, I'll kind of be in the same boat. It's going to be that way for me for a while now. My wife and I are still eating out a lot more than we normally like to do, but we are at least heading in the right direction as far as getting the house put back together. And we're going to have to alter our plans a little bit, because as we move towards colder weather, and I'll probably won't grill out quite as much, although I have been known to sweep the snow off the grill and get it fired up. I'll do that for the right meal.
Grilling is allowed 12 months out of the year.
And it was a lot easier back when I grilled on gas. Because you go out and you fire it up, in 5 minutes you're ready to cook. But for the last, now 12 or 14 years, I've cooked exclusively on lump charcoal. And man, you got to really want a bratwurst in January if you're going to go out and fire up the grill to do that. So
I'm not going to want a bratwurst ever.
Oh, that's a shame. That's your loss. I mean, it's okay to be wrong. I mean, every now and then. What do you got against
but
bratwurst,
a burger?
Man?
A burger would be good.
That might be something we might have to start doing, and we might have to incorporate a video element of our field trips where I take Steve out and get him to realize that maybe you're just making a mistake and by not eating this.
I've had bratwurst.
I was disappointed today at the Fall Festival that the Jamaican truck on their banner, they advertised curried goat and oxtail on their banner, but they didn't have that. And I'm sure they just figured the demographics, we're going to cook chicken, shrimp,
We're in Midway, Kentucky.
Yeah, so they're not going to sell much oxtail in Midway. They would have sold one plate of oxtail to me because if you like pot roast, you can. Oxtail is pot roast on level 10. It's that much better. So again, as long as somebody knows how to cook it. I've never cooked it myself. I like to try it, but it's good. I'm going to pretty much try anything you want to sit down in front of me. If you can sell it to me, I'll figure it out. I'll eat it. And maybe we should get Steve to
I'm
try
not so brave.
Yeah, that's part of the fun with food. I mean, like vacation, our first option is where are we going?
Yeah,
and what kind of food can we eat?
I'm with you on that part of it.
We try to try new things, and
there's a McDonald's on every corner.
Yeah, I'm not doing our primary rule is we don't eat anywhere we can eat at home.
Right, I get that.
No, I will try pretty much anything, and a lot of times we'll go into restaurants and I will ask the server, what do you recommend? And if it doesn't matter to me what they say is the best thing, if they're convicted that that's the best thing on the menu, I'm going to try it. And most of the time it works out well. So anyway, we're speaking of something different. We're drinking. This is going to be a little different for Steve. This is raspberry peanut butter and jelly boy from Atrium Brewing in Louisville. Or those dudes over there. This is they bill it as a pastry sour. The boy name is a series of beers they do. They do a bunch of pastry sours where they call it whatever flavor boy, lemon meringue boy, whatever. This is peanut butter and jelly. This is a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in a glass. Raspberry, you get the raspberry for sure on the nose.
Raspberry, but I'm not tasting any.
There's peanut butter there, and it's.
What am I missing?
It's the raspberry hits first. Peanut butter comes through on the swallow. It's so good. They've done a good job with this one. I will say
it's good.
I will say the raspberry is more forward.
For sure.
But the peanut butter's there. Peanut butter is kind of a tough flavor to pull off in beers. There are some good ones in the Lexington area that are just straight like peanut butter stouts or peanut butter porters. But to do the peanut butter and jelly thing, a lot of fun. They've done a good job with this one. This was one of their, I think they released this a couple weeks ago during their like anniversary week. So I picked this up when we were over there a couple weeks ago and thought I'd save it, and I hadn't tasted it until right before we started. So good stuff.
It's not bad.
They always make good beers, so I can't complain. I'll try to find something interesting for us to drink.
Swear I don't taste the peanut butter.
I feel like of course by the time we pour these and then we start and do this, we're an hour in. And I feel like the peanut butter maybe was a little bit more noticeable when I first poured it, but so that could be the case. But it's good. I'll try to see if I can find something else to try for next week. We'll see if we can stretch.
I caught a little bit of it then.
A little bit. Yeah, I think it's. I guess I'm probably just because I've been drinking craft beer for so long. I guess there's a part of
craft
beer. I will notice flavors, or at least I know what I'm thinking I'm going to taste. I guess sometimes it's you are pushed into thinking you taste things, but no, there's definitely peanut butter in this one. I caught
a lot more of it then.
Yeah, I think as it
just kind of savored it a little bit.
Yeah, I think you can begin to pick it up for sure. Good stuff.
It's
from
not
them.
bad. It's pretty good.
Yeah, their stuff. I can't say enough good things about those guys. There's a couple breweries over in Louisville that just do really, really good beers, and this is definitely one of them. We'll find some other good stuff to try here. I saw this week I think Country Boy's got a couple of different things in the pipeline, so we'll be on the lookout for those. Here in a couple weeks, Country Boy has, here in Georgetown, has their annual Fall Bazaar. I think that's taking place on Saturday, October the 11th. If you'd like to buy some records, I'll be there setting up.
You could buy Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell.
Yeah, I'll sell you Bat Out of Hell for a decent price. But no, that's always a good time. I'm not sure why Mason and the guys wanted me to come out there, because most of the people who set up at the Country Boy Fall Bazaar are actual artists, and they make things and have really cool stuff. So I'm gonna
you bring something different.
I'm gonna be over in the corner selling records. But yeah, nothing of my own talent for sure. But it's always a good time. I mean, they have about 60 vendors. They have some good food out there, and obviously good beer, and a lot of really unique stuff. It's a fun time because we usually round up a few Christmas presents. That usually kind of kicks off our Christmas shopping at the Fall Bazaar. We'll pick up some stuff for family and friends. So highly recommend getting out there and checking that out, and we'll keep an eye on other things that might be going on locally that we can go participate in. So anyway, we'll get prepared for, I guess if we do this again next Sunday or whatever, we'll have a Kentucky victory upset over South Carolina that we can talk about. That's what we'll hope for.
He's
anyway.
confident.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We can hope anyway. But until then, get out there and watch some good sports this week. Watch the Ryder Cup this week. If you're
I'll be watching it.
Even if you're not a golf fan, hardcore, it's a fun event. It's kind of like the Olympics in that you can be not necessarily invested in the sport, but you can get invested in
the
Americans and be America. We can do that. But yeah, get out there and watch some sports this week. Listen to some good music and eat some good food. Try some oxtail or some or some bratwurst. Until next time.
Nope.